Imagine for a moment that every burden you carry, every flicker of fear, every whisper of doubt, is not a chain to break or a wall to climb, but a thread in a vast tapestry leading you somewhere deeper. What if the things you wrestle with, the parts of yourself you push away, are not enemies to defeat, but guides pointing toward a truth you've yet to see? Picture your life as a map, not drawn in the ink of your triumphs, but etched in the shadows of your struggles. What if the key to who you are, your purpose, your essence, hides not in the light you chase, but in the darkness you avoid? This isn't a comforting thought at first. We're taught to seek the bright, the certain, the polished. We build lives around what shines, success, approval, clarity, and turn our backs on the murky, the uncertain, the flawed. But what if that turn away is the very thing keeping us lost? What if the parts of ourselves we bury, the anger we stifle, the envy we deny, the dreams we call foolish, are not flaws to erase, but fragments of a greater whole, waiting to be understood? Let's step into this idea together, not as a fleeting notion, but as a journey into the depths of what it means to be human. Over 2 decades of pondering existence, I've come to see that life's deepest questions don't yield simple answers. They unfold like riddles, revealing more riddles still. The Swiss thinker Carl Jung, a pioneer who plumbed the unseen corners of the mind, gave us a lens for this: the shadow. He saw it as the hidden self, the unconscious tangle of traits, desires, and impulses we reject because they don't fit the image we want to hold. Yet, he argued, this shadow isn't a curse. It's a mirror. It's a teacher. It's the raw material of our becoming. To grasp this, let's pause and reflect. Think of a moment when something stirred you. A sharp irritation at someone's arrogance. A pang of guilt over a quiet resentment. A shiver of shame at a secret longing. Why do these feelings grip us? Why do they linger unbidden, like echoes we can't silence? Jung suggested they're signals from the shadow, rising from a place we've locked away. We don't just stumble over these emotions. They're signposts pointing to what we've disowned. And here's the paradox. What we disown doesn't vanish. It grows stronger, shaping us in ways we barely notice. Consider how we live. We judge others for what unsettles us: laziness, pride, greed. Yet how often do those judgments circle back? Jung wrote, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you bristle at someone's flaws, ask, what chord does this strike in me? Is it their voice I hear, or my own, buried deep? This isn't about blame. It's about discovery. The shadow doesn't just hold our weaknesses. It cradles our potential, the energy we've smothered because it feels too wild, too risky, too real. Take a breath and look within. Are there pieces of yourself you've tucked out of sight? A fear of failing that you mask with busyness? A rage you swallow because it's wrong? A yearning for love, for art, for freedom you've dismissed as impractical? We spend so much effort building walls around these things, thinking they protect us. But what if they're not prisons to escape, but doorways to enter? What if the shadow isn't a flaw to fix, but a call to listen? Jung called this journey individuation, the slow, brave work of becoming whole. It's not about perfection. It's about integration. Picture a mosaic. Each shard, light or dark, finds its place. Without the dark, the light lacks depth. Without the shadow, the self lacks truth. This idea echoes across time. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard spoke of despair as the refusal to be oneself. A refusal born of ignoring the messy, imperfect parts we carry. To live authentically, he said, we must face that despair, step into it, and find the self it conceals. Nietzsche, too, urged us to become who you are. A charge that demands we wrestle with every facet, not just the ones we like. But why is this so hard? Because the shadow frightens us. It's the unknown within, the chaos we can't control. We'd rather pretend it's not there, projecting it outward onto the world. You see it in the news, in arguments, in quiet grudges. People raging at shadows they won't name as their own. Yet Jung insisted that facing this chaos is where freedom begins. The shadow is a moral problem, he wrote, that challenges the whole ego personality. To meet it is to question who we think we are and who we might become. Let's linger here for a moment. Imagine a hero from an old tale, say Odysseus, battered by storms and his own pride, or Arjuna from the Bhagavad Gita, torn between duty and doubt. Their greatness doesn't lie in their victories alone, but in their struggles, their flaws, their shadowed depths. These stories aren't just myths. They're mirrors of our own paths. We, too, must face the monsters within, not to slay them, but to ask, what are you here to show me? This is where the journey turns practical, yet profound. The shadow speaks in subtle ways, through dreams that haunt us, reactions that surprise us, patterns we can't shake. Have you ever woken from a dream you couldn't explain? A strange scene that left you uneasy? Or snapped at someone, then wondered why it hit so hard? These are the shadow's whispers, nudging us to look closer. Jung saw dreams as the unconscious knocking on our door. Our task is to open it, not bolt it shut. So how do we begin? With awareness. Notice the moments that jolt you, the flare of envy, the sting of shame, and don't rush past them. Sit with them. Ask, what's beneath this? What part of me is crying out? This isn't about indulging every impulse. It's about understanding them. Acceptance follows, not approval, but acknowledgement. Yes, this is in me, you might say. And it's not all I am. Picture this shift. Instead of fearing your flaws, you see them as lanterns lighting a path. That fear of failure? It's caution turned sharp, a reminder to prepare. That buried anger? It's passion, waiting for a cause. That impractical dream? It's your soul's compass, pointing true north. The shadow isn't your doom, it's your depth. And in that depth lies your purpose, not as a prize to win, but as a truth to uncover. We've only scratched the surface. Ahead, we'll dive deeper into how the shadow shapes our choices, our relationships, our very sense of reality. We'll explore how embracing it can heal us, not just as individuals, but as a collective woven into the fabric of existence. The most piercing insight waits at the end, a revelation about what this all means for you, for me, for the world we share. But for now, let's rest here, at the edge of the unknown, with a question hanging in the air. Are you ready to look where you've never looked before? The shadows dance with morality and connection. We've stood at the edge of the unknown, peering into the shadow, that hidden realm within us where fear, shame, and untamed desire simmer. Now, let's step further in. What if this shadow isn't just a personal secret, but a thread tying us to the larger weave of existence? What if it's not only about who we are alone, but how we live with others, and how we wrestle with the very idea of right and wrong? Think about the choices you make every day. You hold the door for a stranger, or you don't. You bite your tongue in an argument, or you let it fly. These moments seem small, but they ripple. Jung saw the shadow as a moral puzzle, a knot we can't untie by pretending it's not there. It's the voice that tempts you to snap when patience wears thin, or the quiet envy that flares when someone else succeeds. We like to think morality is clear, good here, bad there, but the shadow muddies the water. It asks, what if the bad in you isn't wrong, but misunderstood? Picture a scale, the kind Lady Justice holds. On one side, the self you show, the polite nods, the steady hand. On the other, the shadow, the fleeting wish to shove past, the grudge you nurse in silence. We tip the scale toward the light, thinking that's where virtue lives. But what if true goodness isn't about denying the dark, but balancing it? Kierkegaard, the brooding Dane, called this the tension of existence. To be human is to straddle both, to feel the pull of despair and hope at once. Ignoring the shadow doesn't make us saints, it makes us liars. Let's bring this closer. Recall a time you judged someone harshly, a friend's selfishness, a stranger's rudeness. The sting of it burned, didn't it? Now turn the lens inward. Have you ever been selfish? Rude? If you're honest, the answer's yes. Jung's insight cuts deep here. We see in others what we won't face in ourselves. That judgment? It's a spotlight, not on them, but on your own shadow, projected outward. The German thinker Martin Heidegger might nod at this. He said we're thrown into a world we didn't choose, yet we spend our lives fleeing what's real within us. The shadow is part of that realness, a piece of our being we can't outrun. This isn't just a mind game. It shapes how we connect. Relationships are mirrors, reflecting what we hide. Ever notice how certain people unravel you? A coworker's arrogance grates. A partner's silence stabs. Why? Because they touch something raw, something you've buried. Jung called this projection. We cast our shadow onto others, then fight it as if it's theirs. But what if, instead of pointing fingers, we asked, "What's this showing me? What part of my own darkness is dancing here?" Imagine a friendship strained by unspoken tension. You resent their neediness, their constant pull for attention. You pull back, annoyed. But pause. What if that resentment whispers something about you? Maybe it's a hunger for recognition you've stifled, a need you've told yourself is weak. The shadow doesn't just strain the bond, it's a bridge to mend it. By owning what's yours, you soften. You see them clearer. Hannah Arendt, who probed the human condition, might say this is where real connection begins. In the shared frailty we dare to name. This dance with the shadow isn't easy. It's tempting to keep it simple. Love the good, hate the bad, move on. But life isn't simple, and neither are we. Nietzsche threw a wrench in that machine when he said, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." The shadow is that chaos, wild, messy, alive. To deny it is to dim the star, to mute the music of your own becoming. Morality, then, isn't about pruning the chaos away. It's about tending it, letting it grow into something true. Let's stretch this further, into consciousness itself. What if the shadow isn't just a corner of your mind, but a window to something bigger? Jung believed in the collective unconscious, a vast, shared sea beneath our personal waves, filled with archetypes and echoes of humanity's story. The shadow swims there, linking your struggles to mine, to everyone's. That recurring dream of falling, that flash of rage at injustice. Could they be more than yours alone? Could they tie you to the fears and fires of those who came before? Think of it like a forest. Each tree stands alone, but underground, roots tangle, sharing water, life. Your shadow isn't just your root, it's part of the network. When you face it, you don't just heal yourself. You stir the soil we all grow in. This is where the stakes rise. The shadow isn't a private quirk, it's a moral act, a ripple in the collective. To ignore it is to stay asleep. To meet it is to wake up, not just to yourself, but to the world. So where does this leave us? With a choice. You can keep the shadow at bay, a stranger knocking you never answer. Or you can open the door, sit with it, listen. It starts small. Next time you flinch at someone's words, don't just react. Wonder, what's stirring in me? Write it down, mull it over. The shadow loves questions. Why do I feel this? What am I afraid to see? It's not about fixing, it's about knowing. We're not done yet. Ahead, we'll trace how this knowing reshapes your purpose, how the shadow fuels creativity and courage. We'll ask, what does it mean to live awake in a world half dreaming? The deepest truth still waits, a revelation that ties the personal to the cosmic, the shadow to the stars. For now, rest here, with the forest humming beneath your feet, and ask, What roots are calling me to dig deeper? The shadow as fire and compass. We've ventured into the shadow's depths, seeing it as a moral mirror and a bridge between us. Now, let's turn the lens towards something fiercer, something alive: purpose. What if the shadow isn't just a burden to bear or a puzzle to solve, but a flame waiting to burn? What if the parts of you that feel broken or forbidden are the very sparks of what you're meant to do, to be, to give? Pause and think. We often imagine purpose as a distant star, something out there to find, a perfect fit for the self we wish we were. But what if it's not a treasure hunt? What if it's a fire pit, right here, fueled by the sticks and stones of your own life? The fears you dodge, the passions you've doused, the doubts you've stacked high. Jung saw purpose not as a gift dropped from above, but as a river carved from within. He called it individuation, the slow, winding path to wholeness, where the shadow isn't a detour, but the current itself. Let's feel this out. Picture a moment you felt lost. Maybe a job drained you, a dream slipped away, or the days blurred into gray. Now recall a feeling you pushed down then. Anger at the grind, longing for something more, shame at not knowing the way. We bury those embers, thinking they're ash. But what if they're coals glowing still? Jung believed the shadow holds our untapped strength, energy we've locked up because it scares us. That anger? It's drive, misaimed. That longing? It's vision unshaped. That shame? It's a call to grow. This isn't new. The mythologist Joseph Campbell traced the hero's journey across cultures. Heroes like Theseus or Joan of Arc, facing trials not just outside, but within. They meet their shadow in the labyrinth, the battlefield, the quiet of their own hearts. Campbell said the treasure they win isn't gold. It's themselves, whole and awake. Your shadow is your labyrinth. Step in, and the monster you fear might hand you a map. But how does this spark purpose? Let's say you've stifled a love for painting, calling it childish. The shadow holds that brush, smudged with guilt. Pick it up, and you might find it's not just a hobby. It's your voice, your way of seeing. Or maybe you've swallowed rage at injustice, fearing it's too loud. Let it breathe, and it could blaze into advocacy, a fire for change. The shadow doesn't just hide flaws, it guards gifts. Nietzsche's cry to become who you are rings here. Your truest self isn't the polished mask, but the raw, shadowed core. Now, let's paint with broader strokes, creativity. The shadow isn't quiet. It's a storm of color we've muted. Think of a canvas. Light hues alone make it flat. Add dark, smears of doubt, streaks of wildness, and it breathes. Jung saw creativity as a bridge to the unconscious, where the shadow dances. Look at Frida Kahlo, her pain bleeding into art, or Beethoven, his fury thundering through keys. Their genius wasn't despite their shadows. It was because of them. What have you silenced in yourself? A song, a story, a bold idea. Unearth it, and the shadow turns chaos into creation. This takes guts. Facing the shadow isn't a cozy chat. It's a wrestle. Simone de Beauvoir, the French existentialist, said freedom comes from choosing yourself, shadows and all. Not the you others expect, but the you that trembles, rages, dreams. Modern voices echo this. Psychologists today talk of radical acceptance. Owning every piece, not to wallow, but to rise. It's scary because it's real. You might find your purpose isn't safe, a steady job, a tidy life, but something jagged, alive yours. Let's ground this. Say you envy someone's confidence. Instead of stewing, ask, what's this envy teaching me? Maybe it's your own voice, hushed too long, aching to speak. Or you dread failure, so you play small. Look at that dread. What if it's not a stop sign, but a push to risk? The shadow doesn't hand you answers. It hands you questions. Answer them, and purpose unfolds, not as a plan, but as a pulse. This shift ripples outward. Living from your shadow-lit core changes how you move through the world. You're less a puppet of approval, more a flame of intent. Relationships deepen. You see others' shadows too, and the masks fall. Work shifts. You chase what stirs you, not what pays the rent. Even time feels different. Not a race to win, but a space to burn bright. Jung said the shadow's energy, once freed, fuels the privilege of a lifetime, becoming you. But there's more. Purpose isn't just yours. It's woven into the whole. Jung's collective unconscious hints at this. Your shadow ties you to humanity's story, a thread in the tapestry. When you light your fire, others see theirs. We're not islands. We're embers in a shared blaze. What could that mean? For you, for us, for a world flickering in half-light. We'll chase that next. Ahead, we'll explore how the shadow bends reality itself. How facing it wakes us from a dream we didn't know we were in. The biggest truth looms, a spark to set it all ablaze. For now, stand here, by the fire pit of your own making, and ask, what's ready to burn? The shadows bend in reality. We've lit the fire of purpose, felt the shadow's heat as it shapes who we are and what we create. Now, let's step beyond the personal, into the vast. What if the shadow doesn't just define your path, but bends the very world you walk? What if it's not only a piece of you, but a crack in the wall between what's real and what's dreamed? Start here. Reality isn't solid. It feels like stone. Days stack up, clocks tick, bills arrive. But peel back the skin, and it's a river fluid shifting. Jung saw the shadow as a key to this flow. It's not just your hidden quirks. It's a doorway to the unconscious, where time blurs and the self spills into something bigger. Ever had a dream so vivid you woke unsure which side was true? Or a hunch that hit like lightning, guiding you before you knew why? That's the shadow, tugging at the curtain of what you call real. Let's stretch this. Sartre, the French existentialist, said we're condemned to be free, thrown into a world with no script, forced to write our own. But he warned, we flee that freedom, clinging to roles, rules, shadows we won't face. The shadow, then, isn't just a flaw. It's a wake-up call. It whispers, you're more than this desk, this mirror, this mask. Ignore it, and reality stays small, a cage you built. Meet it, and the bars bend. You see the world not as it's handed to you, but as it could be. Think of a moment you felt trapped by a job, a fight of fear. The walls pressed in, didn't they? Now recall the shadow lurking there. Resentment you swallowed, a scream you stifled. What if that pressure wasn't the trap, but the key? Jung believed the shadow holds energy, raw, chaotic, alive. Bottle it, and it festers, warping your days into a half-life. Release it, and it floods the river of your mind, washing the fixed into flux. That job, a stepping stone. That fight, a lesson. That fear, a star to steer by. This isn't fantasy, it's physics in a way. Modern minds like those in quantum theory say reality's not set. It dances with perception. Particles shift when watched. Time bends near mass. Could consciousness, yours, shadowed and all, play that dance? Jung's collective unconscious hints yes. A shared sea beneath us, rippling with archetypes, heroes, tricksters, shadows, that shape what we see. Your anger at a stranger, your ache for meaning, they're not just yours, they're echoes of the whole, bending the world's curve. Let's feel this deeper. Ever met someone and felt an instant pull or push? No reason, just a hum in your bones. Or stood in a place, a forest, a ruin, and sensed it staring back? The shadow stirs there, linking your pulse to the unseen. Rumi, the Sufi poet, wrote, "Beyond right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there." That field's the unconscious, where shadows meet, blurring me into you, now into then. Reality isn't a line, it's a web, and the shadow's a thread. But here's the twist. Facing it wakes you. We sleepwalk through life. Jung said, chasing light, fleeing dark. The shadow's the alarm. Notice how you flinch at criticism, how you envy in silence. Those jolts crack the dream. Sartre called it bad faith. Pretending you're not free, not shadowed, not real. Wake up, and reality shifts. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You see the strings, fear pulling this, shame tugging that, and cut them. What's left? A world alive, trembling with possibility. This takes courage. The shadow's not tame. It's a storm, a starless night. Modern neuroscience backs this. Buried emotions don't die. They wire your brain, shading your lens. Face them, and the wires spark anew. That dread you've run from? It's adrenaline, ready to leap. That guilt? It's care, seeking a home. Reality bends because you bend toward truth, not illusion. Jung called it individuation's peak. Not just whole, but awake. And it's bigger than you. The shadow ties you to the cosmos. That recurring dream of flying. Mine's a cliff, yours might be wings. Taps the collective, a memory older than bones. When you wrestle your dark, you stir that sea. Others feel it. A friend softens, a stranger nods. The web hums. Jung saw this as humanity's call, to wake one by one, lighting the dark together. Reality isn't yours alone. It's ours, shadowed and starred. We're nearing the end, but not yet. Next, we'll weave it all, struggle, purpose, reality, into one blazing truth. The shadow's final gift waits, a mirror to the infinite. For now, stand here at the river's edge and ask, what bends when I look deeper? The shadow's gift and the infinite thread. We've traveled far, through struggle's map, morality's dance, purpose's fire, reality's bend. Now, at the journey's crest, let's ask, what does the shadow mean, not just for you or me, but for all that is? What if this hidden tide, this dark spark, isn't a flaw to fix or a riddle to solve, but the heartbeat of existence itself, a gift that binds us to the infinite? Step back and see the tapestry. Your shadow, those flickers of fear, bursts of longing, stabs of shame, seems small, a private knot. But zoom out. Jung's collective unconscious paints it vast. A sea beneath us all, swirling with shadows older than words. That pang of doubt you feel? It echoes in a child's hesitance, a sage's silence, a star's unseen pull. The shadow isn't yours alone. It's the thread stitching you to me, to them, to the cosmos humming beyond. This is the final truth. The shadow is our bridge to wholeness, not just within, but without. Jung whispered it in Individuation, become whole, and you touch the all. But it's more. Camus, wrestling life's absurd, said we must imagine Sisyphus happy, not despite his rock, but because of it. Your shadow's that rock. Heavy, yes, but yours to roll, to shape, to love. It's not a curse, it's a call. Face it, and you don't just find yourself, you find us. Picture this. Every time you meet your shadow, say, the envy you've hushed or the grief you've dodged, you crack a shell. Light seeps in, not to blind, but to reveal. You see your envy's root, a hunger to shine. Your grief's core, a love too deep to name. This isn't just healing, it's waking. Teilhard de Chardin, the mystic scientist, saw humanity evolving toward a new sphere, a mind woven tight by shared awakening. Your shadow's the loom. Integrate it, and the weave tightens. Not just your strand, but the whole cloth. Let's make it real. Yesterday, maybe you snapped at someone. A sharp word, a cold glance. The shadow flared. Anger, impatience, something raw. Instead of burying it, sit with it. Ask, what's this heat? Maybe it's exhaustion, crying for rest. Maybe it's a boundary, begging to stand. Now imagine, you own it, soften it, learn from it. That shift doesn't stop with you. The next word you speak lands gentler. A stranger feels it, carries it, passes it on. The shadow, faced, ripples the sea. This is morality's paradox. The bad in you, greed, rage, fear, isn't evil to slay. It's clay to mold. Jung said it's a moral act to know you're dark, not because it's wrong, but because it's real. Deny it, and it festers, poisoning quietly. Embrace it, and it transforms into grit, into passion, into care. Modern eyes see this too. Neuroscience shows suppressed shadows twist our choices, while acceptance rewires us toward clarity, connection. The good isn't the absence of dark, it's the courage to hold it. And reality? It bends here most. If consciousness shapes the world, as quantum hints and mystics sing, then waking to your shadow wakes the whole. That dream where you fall, then fly? It's not just yours, it's ours, a collective ache to rise. Rumi's field beyond right and wrong? It's here, in the shadow's embrace, where we meet as we are, flawed, fierce, infinite. Reality isn't a stage you play on. It's a song you sing, shadow and all. So what's the gift? Freedom. Not from the shadow, but through it. Freedom to be, not the saint you're not, nor the sinner you fear, but the human you are, light and dark, star and void. Purpose flows from this. Not a job, not a crown, but a presence. You, whole, become a lantern, not to dazzle, but to glow, steady, true. Others see it, feel it, light their own. The world shifts, not loud, not fast, but deep. Here's your charge. Look within, not at the shine you've polished, but the rough you've shunned. Ask, what's my shadow whispering today? Maybe it's a fear to name, a love to claim, a wound to tend. Don't rush. Listen, write it, walk it, breathe it. This isn't a finish line. It's a horizon. Each step stitches you tighter to yourself, to us, to the mystery holding it all. And share it. Tell me, tell a friend. What stirred in you? What shadow flickered, then flared? Your voice might wake another's. This isn't the end. It's a beginning. The shadow's gift isn't closure. It's an opening, a star igniting in the vast. You're not alone in this dark. You're a thread in the light it births. Thank you for walking this path. May your shadow be your guide, your fire, your sea. May you shine, not despite it, but because of it.